What is going on, guys? My name is Sena and welcome back to another video. This video is going to be different than the usual guide videos that I make for you guys because this video is actually going to be an agent tier list for Valorant. I'm going to be going down the list of agents in alphabetical order and placing them on this tier list based on how useful they are. I want to preface this video by saying two things. The first of which is that I am only taking ranked into consideration when placing these agents on this tier list. I'm not going to be looking at pick rates in pro play or VCT or anything like that because 99.99% of you will only be using these agents in ranked and not in a professional tournament. And second of all is that this tier list is 100% my opinion. You guys are allowed to disagree with me, and I'd actually encourage you to go down in the comment section and let me know what you think and what you would change at the end of the video. Speaking of Valorant agents, if you actually want to look at all of your stats that you have with each agent in Valorant, I want to introduce you to today's sponsor, Valorant Tracker. Valorant Tracker is a free to download and use all-in-one companion tool that lets you look at all of your stats for Valorant. Your KD ratios, headshot percentages, win rates, and everything that you need to know for each agent is displayed on Valorant Tracker for you to look at. This way you can see which agents you perform the best on and which agents you need to work on. Not only this, but there's actually a guide tab in the Valorant Tracker overlay, and if you click on that, it shows you strategies and lineups for every single agent in the game. These libraries are constantly being updated and new stuff is being added all the time as the community finds more and more lineups. And like I mentioned towards the beginning, Valorant Tracker is completely free and you don't have to pay a single penny to get access to all of these super cool features. Feel free to go down in the description of this video or in the pinned comment and click on my link to download Valorant Tracker today. Huge thank you to Valorant Tracker for sponsoring this video, and with all that being said, guys, let's jump right into the video. Alrighty, so as you guys can see here, we have our tier list ready to go. I'm just going to be going through these agents in alphabetical order and placing them on this tier list where I think they belong based on how good they are in ranked. If you're a beginner or just starting out, this might help you get an idea of who you want to main or which agents you want to try out. The S tier is meta, the A tier are very good, the B tier are good, C tier is meh, and D tier are trash agents. First up on the list, we have Astra, and personally, I'm gonna have to put Astra in the A tier. Astra is a controller agent, meaning she has smokes, and she's one of the better smoke characters in my opinion. She has global presence and global utility, meaning that she can smoke anywhere on the map, no matter where she is on the map. You can be on B site and smoke for your team on A site in the snap of a finger, which is why I think she's so good. Astra used to be absolutely broken a few seasons ago, but they nerfed her a lot, and now instead of being S tier, I really do think that she deserves A tier. Her stun and her gravity well are insanely good for holding off a push and clearing angles on a retake. You guys can see from this clip that I'm playing here, there was 2 enemies backside, and because I stunned backside, they were forced to jump down and give me 1v1s and giving me a really easy clutch. She's a lot of fun to use and she's just a really solid agent, but she's not exactly meta, so I think Astra is going in the A tier. Next up on the list, we have Breach. Personally, I'm gonna have to put Breach in the B tier. Breach can be a devastating pick on certain maps like Fracture or Lotus. His kit revolves around taking space with your team. In order to be successful with Breach, more times than not, you need to have your team back you up and make more coordinated plays. Don't get me wrong, Breach can definitely get a lot of value on his own, but it really does help to have your teammates help you out as well. His fault line will stun everything in its path, and he has one of the best flashes in the game. Breach's downfall though is that he has a very hard time getting information for your team as he is an initiator. He has no scanning ability, no drone, nothing to really get information, which makes it really hard to have him as a solo initiator. He's got incredibly good util for taking space and clearing out angles, but unfortunately he doesn't see much play on a lot of other maps that don't really require him for the meta. Not only this, but a lot of the times you get headless chickens in ranked that don't play off of your util, which makes Breach lose a lot of the value that he could have possibly had if you had someone that was working with you. All in all, Breach has a lot of good utility for taking space and claiming space, but unfortunately, because because you have to rely on your teammates sometimes to take advantage of that utility, and he doesn't really work as a solo initiator, we're putting Breach in the B tier. Next up on this list, we have Brimstone, who is going straight into the A tier. Brimstone, alongside Astra, is one of the best controllers in the game. Brim has 3 smokes that are absolutely massive, and they also last an eternity. His molly is probably the best molly in the game, as it lasts the longest and deals the most damage per second. And his stim beacon is absolutely crazy for rushing into sites and fast executes. Brim is a very solid agent, but he only has 3 smokes, so you need to make sure that you're using them wisely. A lot of the times in ranked, people will smoke something instantly by default, and that's already 1 smoke burned, so they have 2 for the entire rest of the round. Thankfully, these smokes last a while, but still. Not only this, but if you want to get the most use out of his molly, it's good to learn lineups and know how to do post-plant lineups when you have the bomb down to cancel their defuse. This takes a little bit of commitment and learning, where a lot of players that are just picking him up might not care about. You'll see Brim being played a lot in ranked, but certain maps he's not so good on, for example, Icebox. Brim is a very, very solid controller, and I would recommend that you guys go play him, but he's going in the A tier just for this tier list. Next up on this list, we have Chamber. Oh, Chamber. If I was making this tier list 2 acts ago, I would immediately be putting Chamber in S tier, but unfortunately, we're gonna immediately be putting him in D tier. Chamber went from being the most broken agent in the game to arguably the worst in the game. The reason why Chamber was so good is because he bent his role as a sentinel. He's a sentinel, but had TPs that could be used to take aggressive fights like a duelist. Not only this, but his trip was incredibly OP because of its global presence, as it would stay up no matter where you are on the map, unlike a Killjoy turret. His ultimate ability was absolutely broken, as it was basically a Marshall that one-shots everyone to the body. Pair this with his Headhunter, and you could instantly swap to a Deeg for close range and swap to a Sniper for long range. Since they nerfed him though, his trip now no longer has global presence, and he only has 1 TP anchor and can't really go very far off-site to take an aggressive angle. Not only this, but they also nerfed his ultimate, so now it's just a regular op, which shoots a lot slower. The reason why Chamber is going into the D tier now is because he kind of fails his role as a sentinel. Well, I guess he doesn't fail it, but there are definitely better options, and Chamber is the worst option for sentinel purposes. He only has 1 trip, and you have to stay in range of it at all times if you want it to stay up. That's basically it. Sure, he does have his anchor that he can TP to, but you can't really go that far away from it, and it makes a loud noise to whenever you TP to it, so he's really not that good of a pick nowadays. I really do miss playing Chamber, and he was so much fun when he was absolutely broken, but I think that this was a very, very necessary change that I'm glad that they made. Chamber can still be fun to play, and he still has uses here and there, but unfortunately he is going in the D tier today. Next up on the tier list, we have Cypher. I love me some Cypher. I used to play him a lot back in beta, and for this tier list, I'm gonna put Cypher in the B tier. Cypher does his job as a sentinel much better than Chamber does. Cypher has 2 trips that have global presence, meaning that you don't have to stay near them. Cypher can do some crazy setups where you can play in a smoke, and once they run into your trips, you can spam them and get free kills. I love doing stuff like this, and he's honestly a really good sentinel. His camera gives you a lot of good information and can allow you to play off of sight and play for that information. Cypher is also a great agent to lurk on, and lurking on Cypher can get you a lot of free kills and timings. His cages can act as smokes and allow you to take space where you might need to if you're pinned in a corner or something. Cypher being used to his full potential is very strong, although the only issue is a lot of players don't really know how to use him to this potential. A lot of people throw down very poor trips and misuse a lot of his utility a lot of the times. Not only this, but once you've used the setup once, it's very easy for the enemy team to counter it by knowing where the trips are and using shock darts or raised satchels or utility to break those trips because they already know where they are. His camera also makes a loud noise whenever you go on it, so it's really easy to identify where it is. I think Cypher can be great and he's an absolute defensive powerhouse, but a lot of the times in ranked, you can get more value out of some other sentinels that we'll talk about later. All in all, I think Cypher is a great pick and he's going in the B tier for this tier list. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure you go down and drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. Next up on this tier list, we have Fade, and I'm gonna gonna have to be putting Fade as our first S tier agent. Fade is incredible for gaining information. Her haunt can be thrown basically anywhere and can be thrown on top of buildings and scan everything down below. Not only this, but once you've been scanned by this haunt, it leaves trails leading everyone to you, and Fade can send out her dogs to chase those trails and hunt you down, giving away your position even more. Her Q ability is very good for tethering enemies in place, and it also deafens them and makes them 1 HP. Her ult is insane for site executes, and she is all around one of the best initiators in the game and best agents in the game, especially in ranked. It's so easy to just accidentally get value out of Fade's kit, and she's a really good agent. She used to be even more broken, but they did nerf her recently, reducing the damage that it takes to kill her dogs and some other things, I believe. She's good on basically every map, and I would highly recommend that you guys try her out if you are a new player. Next up on the tier list, we have the newest agent in the game, Harbor. For me personally, I'm gonna have to put Harbor in the C tier. He is a controller, which means that he has smokes, and he has a wall that is very similar to Viper's wall. I think that a Harbor in the right hands can be very useful, but most of the time in ranked, he's a troll pick. He's not a terrible agent. His util is actually very good, especially his Cove, which basically acts as a smoke that can block bullets. This is very good for defusing or for taking space, but the only issue with Harbor is that every other controller pretty much has more value than he does. He doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table. I do think that he can be viable on some maps. For example, Pearl, I think he's really good on. I'm not saying that Harbor is a bad agent per se. All I'm saying is that there are other characters that do his job but better, so you have no advantage in picking Harbor over any of them, for example, Viper. This is why I personally think Harbor deserves C tier. Next up on this tier list, we have Jet, the international agent for Instalocks and Smurfs. Jet is instantly going into the S tier. Her dash is one of the strongest abilities in the entire game and allows her to take space very quickly. Not only this, but she has smokes that she can put down to dash into to disorient the team even more. Her updraft allows her to have a lot of vertical play and take a lot of verticality on the enemies, and as I've talked about in other videos, you always want to have verticality on the enemy team. She's super fast and unpredictable. Her ultimate is very good, as you can basically run and gun whoever you want, and you can buy your teammates to save your team econ as well. Jet can be one of the scariest agents to play against, especially if she's in the right hands. I think Jet might be one of the most common agents you'll see in ranked, and a lot of people insta-lock her, so if you do want to try her out, you might have to get your insta-lock game up. She's very, very good, and I would highly recommend that you guys try her out, and she is one of my main agents. Moving on from this, the next agent in the tier list is KO, and I'm going to be putting KO into the A tier. Some of you might be thinking that KO deserves S tier, and I do think that KO can be S tier if used correctly, but the reason why I'm putting him in A tier is because we are talking about ranked here. KO's kit is very strong, but similar to Breach, you need to have teammates that are able to capitalize off of that util. His knife gives you a lot of information and also suppresses enemies, which basically makes it so that they can't use their utility. This means that, let's say if we're pushing A, if Cypher has a setup there, I can throw my dart, and if it scans him, his whole setup will go down, giving us an 8-second opportunity window to rush into site and clear him out. His molly is very good for flushing enemy players out, and he also has one of the best flashes in the game. His ultimate ability basically shuts everyone down that goes near him, and it's super good for taking sites. Also, if he dies while he's in his ult, a teammate can come and revive him, basically giving him a second life, which makes him super good for entering along with his flashes. KO can be absolutely devastating if used in the right hands. Unfortunately though, since we're talking about ranked here, a lot of the times people will not take advantage of KO's util, and it'll be really hard to set up team play sometimes. If you watch Tens play KO, you'll see that he's always calling out to his teammates, I'm gonna knife this, I'll toss a flash over here, hey dash in, pass my flash, and he's basically setting up plays for his team and setting up these different executes. That's kind of what you have to do with KO. It's really hard to play him as a solo player, but you can get away with it. I think that he can definitely be S tier, but since we're talking about ranked here, I think KO is very deserving of the A tier. Next up on the chopping block, we have Killjoy, and in my opinion, I think Killjoy deserves S tier. The reason why I think that Killjoy is an S tier agent is because of the sheer amount of information that you can get from her utility. She has a turret that watches an entire sight line of the map that you can give up. Her alarm bot will activate if someone walks by it and vulnerable them, making them take double damage, which is incredible if you pair it with her mollies, which will absolutely microwave someone. Killjoy has a lot of microwave setups, which are basically setups that forces you into her alarm bot and then forces you to bleed out in the mollies. I think Killjoy's best map might be Ascent, and she has a lot of really good setups that I like to do. For example, on B or on A site near the switch, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with her setups. I also love playing Killjoy on Fracture. I think that on Fracture, Killjoy is the best sentinel that you can have. I like to set up on A site and put my turret to watch drop, and I'll put my alarm bot and mollies to watch main, and I'll either play sand or on site. And this is basically making it so that I could almost solo the site, but I might just have one more person be with me just in case. All in all, Killjoy gets a lot of value out of her util, and I think she's really come back into the meta since Chamber got nerfed. She's one of my main agents. I play her a lot, and I think she's incredibly strong, especially in ranked, because you don't really need people to play off of it. You can make all of that happen yourself. This is why I think Killjoy is very deserving of the S tier. Next up on the list, we have Neon. Neon is an interesting one, and I personally believe that she deserves B tier. Neon is a duelist, and her kit revolves around going fast and being the entry into sight. Her E ability lets you run, and you could also slide while you're running, and her C ability puts up 2 walls, making it really easy to rush into sight. She can be very strong in the right hands, but a lot of the times people just run it down with her in ranked. Because of how quickly she's able to scale up and take space, a lot of the times Neon will rush into sight alone, get picked off, and her team is nowhere near the site. I see this happening a lot, and similar to some of the other agents, you need to work together to make an execute happen, and a lot of the times with Neon, she just lacks in certain areas. Her stuns are very good, and her ultimate ability is really good as well, similar to Jet's ult, which can act as a weapon. I think Jet ult is a little bit better than Neon ult because Jet can jump and be fully accurate, but Neon can't, but I still do think it's a good ultimate. Neon is not a bad pick at all, but I do think that there are duelists out there that are better at doing their job than Neon is. This is why I'm putting Neon in the B tier. Next up, we have Omen, and this might be a controversial one, but I'm also going to be putting Omen in the B tier. Omen is a controller, meaning that he is a smoke agent, and he has 2 smokes, he has a flash, and he has teleports. Omen has 2 smokes, but they regenerate over time, meaning that he can get a lot more during the round. Omen's flash is incredibly strong and is super powerful when paired with a sight take and teammates that know how to play off of it. His smokes are pretty big and they do last a decent amount of time, and he can use his teleport to confuse enemies around his smokes. I think Omen is a very solid agent, although some of the other controller agents do their job a little bit better in my opinion. I think Haven is one of Omen's best maps, and I think you can get a lot of value off of him on that map. Ascent as well. I think Ascent is a very good map for Omen. A lot of the times what people will do is when they're taking B, they'll instantly flash main with an Omen blind so that they can save all of their utility for the sight take, which is very, very smart. I think that Omen's flash being used on a sight take is one of the best things that you can do, and I do think that he's a very, very good controller agent. But because I think that agents like Astra and Brim do their job a little bit better, I think that Omen is deserving of the B tier, which is still very good. Next up on the tier list, we have Phoenix. Phoenix is a duelist, and in my opinion, he is going in the A tier. I would classify Phoenix as a second entry duelist. There are first entry duelists and second entry duelists. First entries are agents like Jet, Neon, and Raze. Second entries are Phoenix and Reyna, and Yoru can be a second entry, but if you don't have a first entry, he can also use his TP to take some space as well. Phoenix is very strong mainly because of his flashes. His flashes pop super fast, and he is able to take space very quickly after a flash. His molly does a lot of damage, and he could actually use it to heal himself as well. His wall lasts a pretty long time too, and it's really good to pair his wall with flashes to take sight. His ultimate basically lets him have a second life, and he can basically go in, die, respawn, and then go back into the site. Very good for taking sites, and it also only is 6 ult orbs, meaning you can farm it very quickly. I think Phoenix is a very underrated duelist. I think he gets a lot of value for his kit, and I think he's very deserving of the A tier in this list. You can be selfish with him, but also make a lot of good plays and win rounds for your team. Next up, we have Raze, which I'm going to be putting in the S tier. Raze's utility is so good. Her grenade does an incredible amount amount of damage, and her satchels allows her to get around very quickly. Her boombot is very powerful for clearing angles and taking space. Her ultimate is a rocket launcher that one-shots anybody that it comes in contact with. Raze is just a super fun agent to play and also provides a lot of value to the team. She's good on pretty much every map, and you can get value on her on every single map, which makes her very good for ranked. Similar to Fade, you can accidentally get value out of her by just throwing out your util and getting damage. I don't think anyone here is going to disagree that Raze belongs in the S tier. Next up on the list, we have Reyna, and this is going to be a very controversial one, but I think that Reyna deserves A tier. The reason why I think that Reyna belongs in A tier is because we are talking about ranked. In ranked, people don't peek together. They don't make coordinated plays. They struggle in certain areas that you can abuse with a character like Reyna, who can heal and get out very quickly after one kill. Playing against a Reyna who knows how to aim in ranked is very scary, and Reynas can solo win rounds for you. Her flashes got buffed too, so now you can whip them out faster, and they blind at any range. This is very good for holding off oppers and also for taking space. Her ultimate ability is insane. She can get full heal whenever she kills someone and dismiss and go invisible off every kill. The best situation that you can use her ultimate is if you're in a 1vx or a clutch situation. It'll make the clutch 10 times more winnable if you're Reyna ulted. I feel like a lot of people really hate on Reyna and they think that she's a trash agent, but I think that in ranked, Reyna can get some of the most value out of any agent in the game. The only reason why Reyna isn't going in the S tier is that she's very selfish, and if you just run in and die and don't kill anyone, you're basically providing nothing for your team, and you can get a lot more value out of other duelists, for example Raze and Jett. Let me know down in the comment section if you agree with my Reyna placement. Next up on the list, we have Sage, which I'm going to be putting in the B tier. Sage is a sentinel and she does a decent job at it. Her wall is very good for denying space and gaining info if they break it. She can heal her teammates, which is very nice, but for healing herself, it only heals her for 30 HP, which makes her kind of a selfless character. Her slow orbs paired with Raze nades on an execute are incredible because you can slow them down and kill them all for free. Her ultimate ability lets you res your teammates, which can turn the tides of a round completely. She has certain maps that she's better on, for example Split and Icebox. She's viable on most maps, but I do think that playing other sentinels will give you more value more times than not. She's a good agent, but she's not really meta, and she's a decent pick most of the time, so she's going in B tier. Next up on this tier list, we have Skye, and I'm going to be putting Skye in the A tier. Skye is an initiator, which means that she has a drone that can clear space, as well as heal her teammates and throw flashes. The reason why I like Skye so much is because Skye is a jack of all trades. She can throw flashes for her team. She can heal her teammates. She can pop a drone and clear angles out for her teammates. She's basically a jack of all trades that can do everything. The only issue with Skye though is that she doesn't have a lot of util to clear angles besides her dog. Other initiators will have scans, for example Sovadar or Fade Eye, but Skye only has one dog that stays on ground level, so you can't clear angles that are high up off the ground. Her heal is very nice and her flashes are also pretty good for gaining info, but in general, as an initiator, you can probably get more value out of others like Fade and Sova. Skye is still very good and she's incredible in ranked, which is why I think she deserves the A tier. Next up, we have Sova, and I'm going to be putting Sova in the S tier. Sova is going in the S tier for similar reasons to Fade. His dart gives you so much information, as well as his drone that you can use to ping enemies. His shock darts are incredible. If you know where someone is, you can just flush them out with those darts and they do a lot of damage. And his ultimate ability can win you a post plant by using it to shoot the bomb to get them off. I think most people would agree with me that Sova deserves S tier, and you see him a lot in ranked, and he's honestly one of the top picks that you can choose. Next up on the list, we have Viper, and I also am going to be putting Viper in the S tier. I think Viper deserves S tier because of how well she can control an area of the map. She has a wall and also an orb, and these are on a cooldown, meaning that she can use them as much as she wants during the round. Her molly's vulnerable, meaning that they do double damage if someone runs past them, making them incredibly deadly. One Viper molly can completely stop a push. She's incredible on maps like Icebox, and she can get a lot of value out of her kit. Her ultimate, which is the Viper's Pit, makes everyone who walks in it decay very quickly, and this paired with her mollies makes her a very deadly agent. I think Viper is a must pick on certain maps, and I think that she gets an incredible amount of value for her kit, and I don't think anyone would really disagree that Viper should belong in the S tier. And last but not least, we have Yoru. Yoru is an underrated character in my opinion. I feel like people hate on him a lot for no reason, but I think that he deserves B tier. I think that he has the most outplay potential out of any agent, meaning that you can use his clone and also his TP or fake TP to kind of spread a lot of misinformation to the enemy team on your whereabouts. He is a duelist, and a lot of people in ranked will consider him a troll pick, but in the right hands, Yoru can actually get a lot of good value. I think Yoru is a pretty good agent, but I wouldn't place him anywhere higher than the B tier. His ultimate lets you run around the map wherever you want and use all of your utility while being fully invisible, meaning you can get a lot of good info out of that, but I feel like he does get outclassed a lot of the times by other duelists, for example, Raze and Jet. And I think that's every agent in the game. This is what we're working with for the final tier list. I didn't really have many agents to put in the C or the D tier because in Valorant, every agent is pretty good, even Chamber. Even though I put Chamber in the lowest tier, you can still use him and get away with making good plays in ranked. I don't think there are any bad agents, but some are definitely better than others as I've outlined in this video. If you're new to the game or just starting out, hopefully this tier list will give you a better understanding of how these agents work and which ones you want to play. Let me know down in the comment section below if you agree with this tier list, and let me know if you change anything about it or which agents you think that I misplaced. Also, let me know what agents you main and what your favorite agent in Valorant is. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video or found it helpful in one way or another. I apologize for the lack of uploads recently. I've just been so busy with work and life, but I did get a longer video out here for you guys to try to make up for it. You guys are amazing, and I just cannot thank all of you for the support that you've given me on this channel. I feel like I don't say this enough, but you guys really have changed my life, and I do appreciate every single one of you who interacts with my videos, watches my videos, leaves likes, subscribes, comments, all of that. I have a Discord server down in the description below. I'd recommend you guys join that. We have a chill community. We'd love to have you, and also follow me on Twitter. Thank you for taking the time out of your day or night to watch this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.
I just flex and count my checks. Don't ask who's best, bitch, I'm the best. Me and Fly when the hill tatted on our necks. Gonna show who's less, gonna show who's the best. I just flex and count my checks. Don't ask who's best, bitch, I'm the best. Me and Fly when the hill tatted on our necks. Gonna show who's less, gonna show who's the best.